It begins without warning. A silent strike against the most powerful nation on Earth. In the skies above the Pacific, Chinese warplanes move into position. In Eastern Europe, Russian missile systems lock onto NATO outposts. In the Middle East, Iranian proxies prepare to ignite chaos. And across the United States itself, power grids flicker. Communication networks collapse. The world's superpower is under attack. But not by one enemy. By three. China, Russia, Iran. Together, they have formed an alliance of fire. And their target is the United States of America. What would happen if these nations launched a coordinated war against the United States? Could America survive? And what would the world look like after such a conflict? Glow showing Europe, Africa, the scenario defined. This is not a border skirmish. This is not a proxy war. This is a full-scale, deliberate, coordinated attack. China dominating the Pacific. Russia pushing against Europe and NATO. Iran unleashing chaos in the Middle East. The objective: break American influence, shatter its alliances, and establish a new global order. To understand the outcome, we must examine the raw capabilities of each player, then simulate what would truly happen if the world plunged into this nightmare. Magnifying glass tilted right capabilities of the coalition. China today fields the largest standing military on Earth, with over 2 million active personnel. Its navy is also the largest in the world by ship count, with more than 370 vessels, including aircraft carriers, destroyers, and over 70 submarines, some capable of launching nuclear weapons. Its missile systems, like the DF-21D carrier killer, are designed specifically to destroy American aircraft carriers before they can get close. China also commands advanced cyber warfare units capable of disrupting satellites, GPS, and critical infrastructure. China's role would be to dominate the Pacific theater, to cut off U.S. allies such as Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan, while controlling global shipping lanes through the South China Sea. Russia remains America's most dangerous nuclear rival. With over 5,900 nuclear warheads, it holds the largest arsenal on the planet. Its conventional forces, though weakened by years of war, still possess thousands of tanks, artillery systems, and long-range missiles. Its S-400 and S-500 air defense systems are among the most advanced in the world. Russia's strategy would be to open a second front in Europe. It could surge into the Baltic states, pressure Poland, and test NATO's ability to respond. For Washington, this means fighting a two-front war, something no American president has faced in modern times. Iran. At first glance, Iran is smaller, but its power lies in asymmetric warfare. Iran commands a network of proxies. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Shia militias in Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen. It has thousands of ballistic missiles capable of striking U.S. bases across the Middle East. And it controls the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow passage through which nearly 20% of global oil supply flows daily. Iran's role would be to ignite chaos across the Middle East, stretching American forces thin, cutting off energy supplies, and destabilizing global markets. The United States. Against this alliance stands the United States. 1.3 million active personnel, 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, over 800 overseas bases, the world's most advanced air force, with stealth bombers and fifth-generation fighters, the unmatched nuclear triad, land-based ICBMs, submarine-launched missiles, and long-range bombers. But America's true power lies in its alliances. NATO in Europe, Japan and South Korea in Asia, Australia, Canada, the United Kingdom. If attacked, the U.S. would not stand alone. But could even this vast network survive the storm? Clapperboard, the war begins, step by step. Phase 1, Cyber Armageddon, Day 1. The first strike would not be physical. It would be digital. China and Russia unleash massive cyber offensives. Power grids in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago fail. Banking systems freeze. Stock markets halt trading. Satellite communications are jammed. Americans wake to darkness, panic, and silence. Within hours, the world's most powerful nation is partially blinded. Phase 2. The Pacific explodes, Week 1. China launches missiles at U.S. bases in Guam and Okinawa. Its Navy blockades Taiwan. Carrier strike groups are targeted by swarms of hypersonic missiles. The Pacific becomes a war zone. U.S. submarines retaliate, sinking Chinese vessels. Air battles erupt over the South China Sea. But every clash costs lives, ships, and resources. The U.S. must now divide its forces. Phase 3. Russia moves in Europe, Week 2. As America fights in the Pacific, Russia strikes west. Armored divisions pour into the Baltics. Long-range missiles hit NATO command centers. Europe becomes a second battlefield. NATO responds, but coordination is slow. Washington is forced to send reinforcements across the Atlantic, weakening its Pacific defense. Russia bets on one truth. The United States cannot fight two major wars at once. Phase 4. Iran ignites the Middle East, Week 3. Iran now strikes. Proxies launch rockets into Israel. U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria are attacked. The Houthis fire missiles at Saudi Arabia and the UAE. The Strait of Hormuz closes. Global oil prices skyrocket. Within days, the world economy plunges into crisis. Now, America is stretched across three fronts: the Pacific, Europe, and the Middle East. Warning: escalation. The nuclear question. As the war drags on, casualties climb into the millions. Cities burn. Economies collapse. The U.S. Navy loses carriers. China suffers devastating strikes on its coastline. Russia faces NATO resistance in Eastern Europe. Iran is bombarded by U.S. airstrikes. The war reaches a breaking point. Russia threatens to use tactical nuclear weapons in Europe. China places nuclear-capable missiles along its coast. The United States raises its nuclear alert to DEFCON 2, the highest since the Cuban Missile Crisis. The question is no longer who wins. The question is whether humanity itself survives. One miscalculation, one false alarm, and nuclear fire could consume the Earth. Globe with meridians, global consequences. Even if nuclear weapons were never used, the damage would be catastrophic. Global trade collapse. With Pacific and Middle Eastern routes closed, supply chains break. Food shortages. Agricultural exports stall. Starvation spreads. Energy crisis. Oil prices soar, crippling economies. Refugees. Tens of millions flee war zones, overwhelming nations worldwide. Technology blackout. Satellites destroyed in orbit leave the world disconnected. The human cost would be unimaginable. Billions would suffer. The world would enter a new dark age. Musical note: closing reflection. In the end, such a war would have no winners. China would burn. Russia would bleed. Iran would crumble. And the United States, though powerful, would be shattered. The only victor would be chaos. For now, this remains a hypothetical. Deterrence, diplomacy, and the fear of nuclear annihilation keep such wars from erupting. But history reminds us, no empire lasts forever, and peace is never guaranteed. So we must ask, if today this is only a scenario, what happens if, one day, it becomes reality?